Caitlyn, give everybody a 30-second elevator pitch. Who is Caitlyn? What are you working on? All the good stuff.
Oh, yeah. My name's
Wait, move your mic a little closer to you. There you go.
Better?
Yep.
Testing. Okay. My name's Caitlyn. I'm the head of growth at Moonwalk Fitness. Moonwalk is a fitness accountability tool, basically just helping people to achieve daily step goals or to achieve their health goals. We're focusing on daily step count as a first starting point, and the app uses financial incentives that on-chain like Solana supports so well, and then also social incentives to help them do that. So we do step competitions where you and I could be in a game, Sunny could be in a game, hundreds of other people could be in this game. Maybe it's a small group, maybe it's a big one, and you have a daily step goal. And to join the game, you enter with a deposit of Solana, USDC, or Bonk just to join the game. If you hit your step count every day, you keep your money. And if you don't, then that day's worth, when you miss your goal that day's worth of the overall deposit goes to a prize pool that's split amongst all the winners. So just a gamified accountability app.
I love this so much because I used to do like step competitions when I was like, before I even started doing like basketball runs and stuff. Like part of just like the D-athletics, youth athletic stuff that we were doing was like this step competition, but it was on like this Web 2 app. But it was similar where it was like you like it like made certain steps for certain people based off of what they walk already, and then you can join games. And we just had our own private game, and you enter with like USD. But it was just like, the only thing I didn't like about it is like they took out so much in terms of like fees and like all this stuff. And I don't know, doing it in crypto is so much better. Like imagine winning bonk for just stepping, like, and then you go and take that bonk and you just hold it. Like, hey, could be up.
No, it's super cool. And I think having the financial component to it actually is what holds people accountable the most at the start.
Facts.
Like you don't want to lose money on the crypto side. When you're talking to crypto users, it's like they want the opportunity to make easy money. So that side's a little bit more appealing to them. I think for mainstream, it's going to be, oh shit, I don't want to lose my money. But it's also super interesting, like to see even in other applications, like if you're talking about like Open Table or something like that. A lot of reservation apps now are making you pay $1, $2 a person to hold your reservation. And it doesn't take much to put like a psychological anchor in your head that, oh, there was money put towards this, I should prioritize it. And that's kind of what we're doing with Moonwalk for fitness. And steps are just a proxy for regular activity, and that's like what a lot of like doctors and whatnot use to track.
Yeah, I mean, what is it, like
activity.
10,000 steps a day at least? And it's just like, even if you're just doing that and you're not as active, or you're not going to Pilates class like 4 times a day or something like that, it's a great way to get active. And to your point too, it's like when I had money on the line, I would literally just be walking around in circles of my apartment because I'm like, there's no way I'm losing this $100. I'm winning this competition.
Well, it's all the habit formation part is so key, but it takes a really long time. So I think something like this where you're joining a game, maybe it's 5 days, a week, 2 weeks, having that in the back of your head, oh, I don't want to lose my money, and always hitting your goals no matter what really helps the habit stick, which I think is the most important part, because it is really hard to integrate something new into your day-to-day, especially when it comes to fitness. Like cars and technology has taken so much of the natural ways that we move in a day out of the equation. So you have to consciously integrate it back in, whether it's like going for a walk in the morning or after work or after every meal, or taking meetings when you can while walking, things like that. You don't think about that most of the time. So you have to make a conscious effort to do so. Like a lot of the people that started using Moonwalk, like the feedback at first was, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how long it would take me to get X number of steps. And then a couple weeks later, they're like, oh, the game that you're creating, make it a higher step count. I want to challenge myself. 10K is not enough. 8K is not enough. So you see people leveling up a lot throughout the process, and it's sort of addictive, which is interesting for something that's health related. You don't hear that often.
So is the biggest difference between Moonwalk and Stepn is that Stepn was essentially so gamified that nobody understood it, and you guys are more like, it's pretty simple. It's just PvP basically.
Yeah, it's a totally different game structure. So yeah, Moonwalk, I think it's more so not maxing out as many steps as you can get. It's not incentivized to like bot. I think a lot on the Stepn side was more like token related as well. And it was like pretty inflationary, if I'm remembering correctly.
It was so complicated. No one understands it. Anyone who tells me they understood it, you did not.
I bought some sneakers and I was like, so what do I do with it now? And then it was like, all right, so you have to like walk during this time, and then you could hit a boost, and then you could get this. And I was just like, bro, what are we doing?
Yeah,
Like,
you got to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Like, if the more steps that you have in an onboarding process, the more you're going to lose people. So our biggest focus is, as soon as someone signs up, how do we get them into a game as fast as possible and make it really, really easy? And then after they've completed a game and you see their, average step count going up, maybe we encourage them to go a little bit further, or maybe we incentivize them to, or encourage them to join another game with a higher step count. So then they're constantly in the loop rather than, signing up and dropping off because it's too many steps.
What about somebody who wants to be onboarded but like is not Web3 adjacent? Is it pretty seamless for somebody who's coming in who knows nothing about this whole world?
So we're working on it. There's a lot of really exciting stuff that's happening pretty soon around iOS app native. So it's all an app, will be an app that you can download in the App Store. The whole experience is all in one spot. It's not the crypto experience of hopping around from web browser to web browser or back to your wallet and then back to the web browser, and like a little bit of like a clunky experience. All going to be an app. It's going to be at end state. We want people to not even realize that they're using crypto because it's so seamless. And there aren't, barriers to entry to get started. It's just powered by Solana on the back end. In the front end, it's a fitness app that anyone could use.
I will say, because I signed up the other day, and it was like, anytime there's like a Google or Gmail sign up, I usually just do that. Mm-hmm. Super seamless with the tip link, like on the back end. Like, obviously it's in browser right now, but I think the one thing that I like the most too is that it's integrated with like your Apple Health Fitness, because that's the other thing. Stepn was like trying to calculate the steps themselves, and I would always see like a discrepancy. But it's like with this, it's just like it's calculated with your health, or if you have a wearable or whatever, like it just shoots right into the app. So it makes it like that much easier.
Yeah, we want to make it really accessible for people no matter what, accessory or wearable they're using, whatever they're integrated with, if it's Google Fit, if it's Apple Health. Like, we just want to make it as easy as possible for people to get started and not gatekeep it because people don't have a certain device, right? So we're trying to go as broad as we can and make it so no matter what you have already, like, you should be able to use that and get started. So then it's like way, way simpler.
There we go. There we go. What was your path before all of this? Like, walk us through, like, how did you get into Web3? How did you get into all this madness?
Oh, man. So...
How'd you get to walking?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like 26 years ago. So I was originally in finance. I was like finance broette. Yeah. Started in finance, was in asset management. So I was in sales. I was like a phone monkey, calling financial advisors, selling them products. Yeah. So very different world. Did not like that a ton. And I was on Twitter for several years by that point. I had a finance professor be like, oh, there's all these smart people on Twitter that you'd never have access to otherwise. They're posting for free. You could be friends with them. Like, they'll answer you. Like, this is something that you're nerdy enough. You'd probably like this. Give it a shot. Dope. So I had been on Twitter for a while by then, met a lot of people, was in that first job in Chicago, which is when I moved there right after college, and was not happy in the sales job. But, you know what you're getting in the job that you have. It's easier to look for a job when you have one. So I was just poking around on Twitter for a while. And a guy that I had known for a while, never met in person, was doing this startup. And it was crypto related, but it was like crypto for financial advisors and money managers, which was more of the world I was operating in. And I was DMing him one day and was like, oh, well, if you guys are ever hiring, I'd be interested in learning more. Not totally sure what you guys are doing. He answered 30 seconds later and said, you're hired. What do you want to do? So,
wow.
Like, new job. And he called me that afternoon, was like, what do you like to do? What are you good at? This is what I'm thinking. What do you think about that? And it just started from there. And the first question I asked him was, that I don't know anything about crypto, right? And he's like, that's great, because we need people from all different perspectives and parts of the journey. We don't want to have like a full team of maxis that don't sympathize with people who are new, which is like, if you're working with financial advisors and money managers, they're all boomers, right? Like, they're not in crypto. It's going to be such a steep learning curve. So he was pretty happy about that. And I ended up learning pretty quickly. I ended up running a crypto education platform for money managers, and did that for a while. That was pretty 101. Ended up getting into DeFi and working for more of like a derivatives and betting platform after that, infrastructure play. And I've always been really big into health and fitness. I was like a big soccer player, track, skiing, like every sport you could possibly play. I was a D1 soccer recruit. And I just have always cared about that a lot. But during COVID, my old roommate and I walked every single day for 6 miles at 5:30 in the morning. And I kid you not, it was like the best thing we did in COVID.
How long did that take?
It took probably like a little bit under 2 hours, but we did it so early.
6 miles is distance.
We'd pour ourselves a coffee, and like even in the winter, we just put on our coats and just go. And it was probably the best thing we could have possibly done. Like we would have lost our minds. We would have been probably kind of fat. Like it was so good for us. And I just, on Twitter, I posted every single day, hashtag get outside or proof of outside, something like that, every single day for 9 months. So I had a bunch of people who joined in on that during COVID and had some really cool stories of like, oh, I think this like saved me. My mental health was so terrible. I'm so glad that I was like being active. Thanks for the daily reminders, that sort of thing. And I've just carried that on for years. So Moonwalk, and when that came about, is one of the few things, and people will probably like shame me for this, that are, you know, heavy crypto like ecosystem users. This is one of the first apps on chain that I use religiously. I was like a super user, power user before I ever was working for the team, and the opportunity came about, and I literally could not think of a more perfect job. So kind of a long-winded answer, but it just made so much sense to me. And as soon as I joined, everyone that I know that either, whether they know anything about crypto or not, was like, this is the perfect place for you.
Facts. I think it's low-key underrated that I feel like we have a lot of people that get onboarded through crypto through jobs, like through like getting into some sort of crypto company, some sort of crypto adjacent company or whatever. Like I feel like I've been hearing that a lot more from people that I'm talking to, that it's just like, oh yeah, like my first experience in crypto was actually like working for X, Y, and Z, and then I learned everything through there. Like that's pretty dope. So when you started that or when you started working with that company, would you say that that's when you essentially just started investing in like different coins? Were you starting to then like do your own research and just be like, all right, I'm kind of like in this now?
Yeah, so much. I mean, you had to, right? Especially because my job ended up, and this was not where I started, but kind of what it evolved to was creating educational content. And to do that, you have to know what you're talking about. So there was a lot of research on that. It was a lot of trial and error. I was around people who obviously knew a lot more about it than I did, which helped. So kind of get the feedback, fine tune, and like, you know, the things that I wasn't sure on, I could get answers to and explanations for, which was really nice. But it was just like drinking through a fire hose, which is the best way to learn, because you kind of are forced to really dig in and learn as much as you can, as fast as you can. So I was buying crypto like as soon as I started. I remember my boss told me to go on every centralized exchange that a US person could access and try opening an account and just going through the entire process of that, like what was good, what wasn't, because we were building a product where trying to make buying and selling crypto for clients was easier for these advisors. So we needed to understand what the experience was. And even that was like pretty eye-opening versus even buying like stocks or going through any more like traditional finance routes.
Yeah, for sure.
Were you working at Solana's offices, or where were you working?
Yeah, so in my last job, I was working from the Solana co-working space in Chicago. That's since shut down, but I was working in the Cube office when I was still in Chicago up until recently, which is a great spot. I know you guys have both been there a lot.
Yeah. So what is it? So for people, I mean, because I feel like, so you're coming into crypto, you then start working for a crypto-based company at the Solana offices. Like that's a dope place to start working. So obviously being there, you know, at Cube's offices and everything like that, was that part of, I guess, like what got you even more enticed by this? Is like, not only are you working, like starting off working in crypto, educating yourself on it, but you're surrounded by some of the brightest minds in all of crypto. So if there's anybody you need to ask for advice, you can literally just walk up to somebody and tap them on the shoulder and be like, hey, can you explain this to me? Did that kind of help with, I guess, the whole onboarding experience for you?
Yeah. So to be clear, too, the first crypto job that I had was fully remote. That job that was like for advisors. But I met some friends in the Solana ecosystem randomly. It was like a friend of a friend, and it happened to be one of my guy friends' like roommates in college, like very small world situation. Shout out to the CoinFlow team, because that's who it was. And they were like, oh, well, if you ever want to get out of the house, because we lived in the same neighborhood, we go to this co-working space a couple times a week. You should come. And I was dying to get out of the house at that point. I'd been working remote for a while and started going with them. And it was the Solana office. And I met Bartosh and Jordan and my like next boss, Gunny, who works with Hero, and just so many people. And it was absolute giga brain devs. And that was really, really cool, because you see a lot online and it's a lot of vapor for sure, and a lot of really the ignorant people are always the loudest. You see the really crazy stuff, which is like entertaining on the outside, but after a while you're like, is this all there is? And seeing the teams that were there, it was just like really, really eye-opening and really encouraging, because they all were like these brilliant people that came from different backgrounds, like the biggest trading firms in the world or like whatever it might have been. And they're all trying to build something here. And it kind of was like, all right, maybe we're onto something. And that was really like instilled a lot of confidence, I feel like, and got me really excited because they were building cool things.
That's such a good point too. I think, you know, to that point, like we go to IRL events a lot, and it's just like, I don't know. It's always just like night and day versus like crypto timeline, right? Where it's just like, yeah, you see all these loud voices and it's like the entertainment of like talking shit and like doing all this stuff, but like they're not actually saying anything of substance. They're just like, yo, what's my views? And like, am I saying some outlandish stuff enough to like get attention? And then you start meeting a lot of these people and you're like, oh, like, no, there's stuff actually still being built here. And there's stuff like continuing to be built. You're meeting all these amazing minds and like you're connecting. And it's just like, oh, we could do this together. We could do that together. And there's like collaborations happening. All this stuff happening behind the scenes of even just like what people see on crypto Twitter. And I think now you've been going to a lot more like IRL events. Like, how's that been for you as far as just like starting in that co-working space and then just expanding out to like going to all these conferences and just like meeting, you know, different people, different teams, all that sort of stuff?
It's so much fun. I mean, it's a lot sometimes. I mean, you see people making like running the conference circuits. I'm like, I don't know how you do that for too long because it's just tiring. But it's really cool once you've been around for a bit though, because then you know a lot of people that there's always going to be, you know, new faces that you don't know, and that part's great. It adds a lot of value too, but there's something about actually being in person with a lot of people that you're excited about them and what they're working on, what they're building, and, you know, like be able to talk about what you're working on too. Especially with Moonwalk, it's been really cool in person, getting like user feedback and onboarding people and just kind of talking about it overall. Like a lot of people are excited about consumer apps that have the potential to scale, which I think Moonwalk falls into that category. So that's been like really positive in person too. It like gets you really excited to see other people excited about what you're working on. So it just makes you want to go harder.
Does anybody like yell at you like, I got my steps in, look at this, Caitlyn, like I got 10,000 a day? Like, do you ever get that?
Yeah,
like, when you're in person?
No, definitely do. Most people are like, I'm going to get my steps. I haven't done it yet. I'm like, I'm not going to like come yell at you.
Yeah.
This is for you. Like,
it's not for me. I'm getting my steps in.
Exactly.
I'm up at 5:30 in the morning.
I'm like, well, if you lose your money on steps in a game that I'm in, that's beneficial for me because I'm never going to miss mine. Yeah. So I'm not going to yell at you.
Real.
There we go.
PvP for real.
Yeah.
What's the biggest like challenge that you guys are trying to overcome right now?
I mean, for anything true mainstream consumer. So to clarify for Moonwalk, like we're in beta still right now, and we're beta testing with the Solana community and crypto users because it's like the perfect beta testing group, right? People in crypto are much more amenable to like a little bit of janky experiences and devs making changes on the fly and like just perpetual upgrades that are being made. Mainstream, if they're not, you know, incentivized to be locked in and stay using a product, they're not going to be as forgiving or generous with like, oh, I don't like this experience, but I'm going to keep trying, or I'm going to give you feedback, or I'm going to be patient. Like, so we want to really go to mainstream market with a strong, seamless product. And we're starting with the crypto crowd first. So a lot of it has been working with those people to get it started. But the biggest issue to your question is to solve for anything that is supposedly going mainstream, which is what we're going for. We're building this for like normal everyday people to experience crypto powered products without even knowing it's crypto powered. So the state of that, the on-ramping and off-ramping part is huge. And doing that in a way that's actually easy, because half the problem with crypto is what's easy to people in crypto is not actually easy to most people. And I think we forget because we're always in the echo chamber, but go outside and talk to anyone who's not in this space and they'll have no idea what you're talking about. So it's figuring out, you know, what are user preferences for how they like to log into different apps? How do we make it so they don't necessarily need crypto to be onboarded? Can we do Apple Pay? Can we do PayPal? Can we do like whatever normal people use? How do we get that integrated and how do we make it work? So that's the biggest thing there, of people not needing to know or have a crypto wallet to log in with, because that's a friction point in itself. And we want to onboard people to crypto, but we don't want to lose them at the first step when they make a sign in. So that part's really, really hard. And I don't think there are many teams out there that have actually cracked it where they have thousands and thousands of users that are onboarding without issues.
I think you have to figure out, it's like, do you guys pay attention to, I guess, what a lot of other daily platforms are doing? And what I mean by that is like, the number one that comes to my mind is Wordle. Like, it's one that people socially share quite often. They share it with friends, they share it with family, things like that. That's not even one that's financially incentivized, but I think what makes people incentivized to share Wordle is having those like green and yellow squares, and they like the UI of that. It's kind of a cool little experience. There's an easy, ability to share that. So do you guys look at other kind of daily platforms like that and kind of go, okay, what is our way, once we do start onboarding the Web2 users and things like that, how do we make that little dopamine hit that people get when they share this in order to make them want to share it with other people, and for those people to then go, okay, cool, now I want to sign up? Is that something you guys pay attention to?
So much. That's like top priority, right? Because once you get people in the door of using a product, how do you keep them coming back, and how do you get them to want to come back? So there's a lot of different places to draw inspiration from. The nice thing is that the playbooks are already there. This is not needing to reinvent the wheel on the things that like really work for people and like the human psychology part of it. Like, there are tried and true things that work, right? So you could look at the sports betting side of things for kind of the more gamified, addictive type of qualities. You could look at Duolingo with like the notifications and the nudges that kind of get you coming back continuously, keeping your streak, that sort of thing. You could look at like something like Wordle, to your point, and having that like socially shareable type of graphics and making it where this is something that you want to post about and show other people, like the social signaling part of it. And then if you look at social media apps in general, like people might be in different places doing their steps and being in games, but how do you make it a social experience regardless of where people are, and bringing in the community aspect of it? And there's a lot of ways that we could go about that as well that we're thinking about. So there's a lot of places to look. It's just more of refining the what and the how of it. But those are all things that will be incorporated because we know that they work, and people are not thinking about your product as much as you are ever. No matter what you're building, that's just like the truth of it. And if you don't realize that and build for it and like account for that, then you're not going to like keep people in the loop.
100%.
Fair. Yeah, no, I liked what you were saying too about like doing the Apple Pay and PayPal, because I think so many times like us in this space, like we think like, oh, they're just gonna come to us if it works and like
Terrible
all this sort
attitude.
of stuff, and it's just like, no, like we have to meet them where they are. You know what I'm saying? Like signing in with a Gmail, like being able to use Apple Pay. I think not to shield them, but I saw that platform Moonshot that like allows you to like literally buy meme coins with Apple Pay. It's like that's meeting someone where they are, and it's just like, okay, I want to get involved on this, but like I don't want to go through the step of buying from an exchange or and then sending it over to my wallet and like all this sort of stuff. Maybe I just want that at first, and that's like their first entry level. And now it's like, okay, wait, maybe if I do that and buy it on an exchange and then send it to my wallet, maybe I'm saving money now, or it's just like a different process, whatever the case is. But yeah, I think there's this aspect of just like meeting people where they are, and like that's how we're going to get more people in this space. That's
like the most important thing. And it drives me crazy. I'll stay off the soapbox, but when you see people talking on Twitter or in group chats, or just the way that a lot of people talk about new people coming to crypto, or just the attitude about it in general, is like so off-putting to me, right? Yeah. Because we're not in a privileged position where people have to come to us, right? And I think that's a pretty misplaced thought for a lot of people, is like they don't have to do anything or have anything to do with us or use anything that we've built. There is no need there, right? It's a want, and if it's a difficult experience or an off-putting one, most people aren't going to do it, right? Why aren't more people using crypto? Well, the UI, UX for most things, it's pretty difficult, and we're just used to going through the motions of that, so we don't see it that way. So I think the more kind of like bridge products to help people onboard, and then maybe they can go down the rabbit hole once they're already dipping their toes into the more complex things, but that shouldn't be the standard of the starting point. And I see a lot of teams and people talking about that in just the wrong way entirely. Like, we are such a small speck of dust in like how big the world is. Yeah, not in like an overly like philosophical way, but just looking at the numbers. It's true. Yeah, like we're not there yet, like at all. So you're missing out on so many people. We're all just fighting over the same small group of users, and it is a small group versus the general population, whether people think it is or not. So it's frustrating to see. So like we're obviously taking a different approach on that one, where we want normal people to come to Moonwalk and use it without having reasons not to. We want to make it super, super simple.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's the way to do it. It's there's way too many times we just think everybody's gonna just come over and try to learn our language, and then like again, it's like that's just. I mean, that's just.
You're not trying to go tell a Normie to go DYOR?
No.
No, you have to tell them to have fun staying poor. That's the that always works. They love that.
Yeah. No, it's 100%. It's all about ease. Like again, I never care about how something works, and I think one of the dumbest things that you can do is be like, well, but our product is like built on chain or whatever.
Exactly.
It's like, brother, nobody gives a fuck. And as soon as you understand that, the better off you are, because again, you are talking that there's such a small amount of people that actually care about that. So in terms of publicly saying it, sure, there are plenty of things that we can utilize the tech of crypto and everything like that. But again, the way that you onboard the user is by ease of ability, not necessarily just being like, okay, this is built on chain, yada, yada, yada. If you don't even understand what that means, that's not a perk to you. So make the experience easy for somebody. That's going to get them enticed by it. And then let them educate themselves over time, or have other users and whatnot educate them. But you're not going to educate them by being like, hey, here are the things that you should care about. And they're like, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
it's like find things people already care about, right? Like is there actually a product market fit? 1, and 2, is it easy to use, right?
Yeah.
Like I see so often really technical people. I mean, developers, I think generally speaking, have a tendency to just over communicate the really technical stuff, and you lose people so fast. That's the main thing I learned from doing the like educational content.
Facts.
Strip it back 10 times, and you probably will need to do it more after you've done that. So like most people do not do that enough. If I showed my like tech savvy non-crypto friends a lot of the comms that I see out there, they would have no idea what they mean. They wouldn't want to learn more. And it's just, you're pushing the wrong things. So it's like also finding where there's a fit for a product, right? And like for the Moonwalk side, it's like health is important. Physical fitness is important. Steps are a really easy proxy for activity. It's one of the easiest things you can do. You can do it anywhere. If you have legs that work, it's something you can do no matter where you are. You don't need equipment. You don't need a trainer. You don't need to spend tons of money to be able to do it. It's just something that you do. So starting with ease of access for that, and then like everyone should care about their health. I'm not going to tell them that they need to. I'm not going to shill nonstop on like the data. There are some people who are into that, so I share it sometimes, but that's not the main pitch, right? People want the vision of like what they can be, how they can look, how they can feel. Like give them the fantasy sort of, if that makes sense, and something that give them a product that helps them attain that. Like they care more about that than the technical logistics of it. They shouldn't have to care about that at all. It should just work.
Right. Yeah. It's all like use case, right? It's all use case over like what the actual technology behind it is. Like, right? For like Moonwalk Fitness, it's like, all right, either you're interested in like making money in an easy way by just like walking and you get incentivized for it, or it's just like, hey, this is a way to incentivize me to actually do something that I want to do, which is get my health right? But it's like, even when I talk about like Cube and sometimes I'm explaining that, it's like, if I were to just like explain like, hey, this is why you should care about self-custody and like why that matters for an exchange, they'd be like, huh? But I'm like, okay, you remember how FTX crashed, and most people do, even normies do. And it's like, well, hey, they were investing your money on the back end, and that's why they got caught for fraud. With Cube, you always know where your money is. That's self-custody. It's like, oh, okay, that's my use case. You know what I'm saying? It's just like always explaining. I think it's always been about, even with technology, even like I used to work at Apple, right? And so like when I would like, sell laptops or people would ask me about stuff, it's like, okay, what are you using it for, right? Mm-hmm. Like, let me like show something that's going to be useful to you. Not like, hey, so yeah, we have the latest processor in the laptop, and like, yeah, so it's just going to be really fast. Like, bro, what? Like, they're not going to like care about that. But if it's like, okay, you can actually run this application, and it applies to you, you're like, okay, I see how this like integrates into my life essentially.
Yeah, and people are self-serving. I don't mean that in like as a dig. It's just a fact, right? So
absolutely.
What do people actually want to use?
Yeah,
and once you know that, then you can position things correctly or in a way that will land, right? Like, don't waste your time on things that people aren't actually going to be interested in for serving their own interests.
100%. Well, I know we need to wrap it up in a few minutes here. This has been, I'm excited to see everything that happens with Moonwalking. It's like, it's a very cool platform. It makes way more sense. Not a shot at Stepn, but kind of a shot at Stepn. It just didn't make any sense. And so when I first heard about you guys, I was like, okay, this is something again that actually makes sense. It's easy to explain it to people, and that's what we need to focus on. Products that, again, it doesn't take somebody 10 hours to have to understand. We live in a world of instant gratification. You don't have 10 hours to explain this to somebody. So
you got like 5 minutes.
Not even.
5 seconds.
You got
5 seconds.
Yeah. It's like,
get paid to walk.
Yeah, boom, there. You know, challenge your lazy friends. You know what I mean?
I'm ready for our collaboration when the cooties is in Moonwalk, and all the steps I'm getting from this ring are just flowing right through. That's going to be like a little double time of rewards.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
No, it'll be good. The cool thing with Moonwalk too is a lot of the integrations that we can do with different teams that are also building cool things. So, and again, on like the wearables part, we want people to be able to use this app with whatever,
like
accessory
whatever
they have.
like of choice. Were you random, but like, were you into the NFT side of things at all? Like, were you in the NFT bull run? Did you buy any NFTs? Like,
oh man,
anything like that? Or have
I'm
you
like,
always been on the
crucified for this? Like, I never was into NFTs. I mean, there have been, the only one that I ever really had was a Mad Lad, and I got that at the Mad List, like initially. I still have it. And of course, Super Based did the pre-sale. Got to do that for Jakey and Steve. Like, who wouldn't? Come on. But other than that, no. I mean, it's funny. This is so contrary to a lot of different people's thoughts on this, but coming from the finance side, I was like, these really antiquated systems and infrastructure that trillions of dollars are flowing on, like, it just makes sense over time that is going to be moved over to something that's faster, cheaper, more transparent. Like, that's just, the tech advancements are going to go that way, and it's going to take a while, but that's the side I always was interested in as the start, and
tokens,
never
DeFi, like that.
In some ways, more just like simplest form for like exchange rails, right? So I always cared about that part, like the actual financialization part of it and markets, but not the NFT side really. I know a lot of people are more on like the opposite end of the spectrum from me, but
no, I mean, that's good. I mean, it's honestly, it's good to know that like there are people in the space that like may not have necessarily even come from that route or been a part of that and are just like here in crypto, and there's so many different lanes that you can take. And even just going back to the fact that it's like walking and like steps have been part of your passion beforehand, and that you were able to find something that syncs up so well within this space is just, it's dope to see.
Yeah, I'm super excited for everything we're working on too. So we've got a lot coming, which I feel like everyone always says like soon TM on like all these great things. But the next few months is going to be big between now and Solana Breakpoint in September. There's going to be a lot of new things being pushed from our devs.
I just want to outstep Marc, to be honest. Like, can we do like is there like a one-on-one thing that we could do?
We're gonna have private game creation. So that'll be like our coming out of beta, which is going to be very, very soon. Is anyone that comes to Moonwalk can create a game.
Hell yeah.
And that's where the interesting part comes in, because instead of having public games where it's people all over the world, it could be, well, I just want to send this to my buddies, and like the 10 of us are going to rip on steps. Yeah. And like, I think that part's more fun.
Oh,
like
100%.
the PvP, when it's like your friends and your family and people you actually want to challenge, and you kind of have like maybe the in-person sort of interaction with it as well. That component's super fun, and putting a little bit of money on the line with a group of people that you want to compete with, like, that's fun. You could do it with yourself. You could do it with Marc. Like, I've seen people do. We had some crypto whales do a game where the entry deposit for each person was 100 SOL. And it was like 30,000 steps a day, something crazy like that. It's
insane.
Like, that's like 15 miles, something like that, if people don't know on the steps. But it was insane. And someone missed steps. So if you missed one day in like a 5-day contest, it's 20 SOL. That's going to a prize pool that everyone else splits that hit their goals.
Let's go.
It's crazy.
33 SOL of the line.
Maybe that'll be our next marketing campaign. We'll get you guys stepping against each other, put some money on the line.
Marc doesn't want the one-on-one smoke.
He's
always talking about Pilates and all this other stuff, but when it comes to true steps, you don't want that.
Your steps are so slow, so make sure it factors in how much faster I am.
It doesn't matter how fast you are. I'm getting more steps in.
No, that's actually factually incorrect. Your legs are longer, so I actually get more steps.
The same distance you'd get more.
But what I'm saying is I will actually get more steps in, because you're over here on your little Pilates machine. I'm out here putting my legs to work.
Oh, please. Okay. All right.
Well, maybe we'll make that happen. We could get some money on the line there and see who can actually walk the walk. No pun intended.
I will.
Marc, you're not going to walk the walk.
All right. Well, hey, we do have to end this because Caitlyn quite literally has a flight to make. So.
All right. Lastly, I just have a present. If you could fit this into your bags, I like to give merch on this podcast. So
I love merch. That's great.
a t-shirt
There we go.
Let's go.
and a hat for you.
There we
Oh,
go.
sweet. Let's go. Thank you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Sonny, I come bearing gifts for you, actually.
Look at that.
While you've been gone, we're not taking this right now. We do not have time. But here is a bottle of Maanz, my boy.
Thank you so much.
So
This might be the first gift I've gotten on this podcast.
yeah, don't get used to that. Don't get
good.
used to that. Shout out to Maanz.
Yeah, shout out to Maanz.
Come bay with the boys.
Get your steps in and then take a shot.
We may have to take a shot right before you leave. We got 2 minutes until your Uber gets here. So
I've already tried that. Do I have to try it more than once?
Oh, you've tried Maanz before.
I have, yeah.
How did you like
I'm
it?
cultured.
You could probably handle it better than Marc.
It was
I would
fine.
assume. Yeah.
I mean, it was fine. It was definitely, it was better than expected. I don't know how you'd handle it though. I don't know if you're like lightweight
he's like
or...
the biggest like drama. He's like, this is Maanz. It's burning my face. Like, yeah.
Well, it's a shot, right? You rip it and then it's done. So
yeah. That's normal people. We're just,
I'm just enjoying the experience.
Last night we were talking about could an espresso martini fix Marc?
Apparently
Could
not.
not.
What time did you land
not.
last night?
I landed at 11:30.
What time did you actually get your bags and
Oh, I had a carry on, so I would have been here at midnight.
yeah, we're not doing that. Not,
Yeah.
I'm not trying.
The only one that couldn't have done is a teeny couldn't fix you. It's okay, Marc.
It is what it is.
It
No,
is
we had
what it
margaritas. We had beautiful margaritas. It was
We
a great
did,
time.
we
It was
did.
a great dinner. We had great guests. It was great company. It was
Well, fuck you.
so yeah, we had an awesome time. Honestly, it was like the amount of people that we had was just perfect.
It was a good crew. Yeah,
anything
if
more
one
would
more
have been way
person
too
had
much.
been there.
Way too much. So anywho, but I'm glad you had a good flight.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
We had
It's
great
alright.
food. A lot of
It's
great
alright.
food. The ceviche, amazing. The burritos, the enchiladas,
All right,
the
all right, all
quesadillas,
right.
the
Yeah.
chip and dip. Forgot the tortillas.
The chip and dip? You mean chips and salsa?
Yeah, but there was multiple dips.
Multiple
dips.
salsas?
Multiple salsas. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even a cheese dip, I think.
We did. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anywho, but glad you had a good flight. Hope you got your.
Did you
peanuts.
get a Oaxacan old fashioned?
No, I did not.
okay.
Okay. I had a margarita.
Waxacan, old
It was spicy.
fashioned.
It was spicy.
Oaxacan.
It was spicy. Okay, did you have an apparel spritz? Okay, so I don't even want to hear
I
it.
don't know what you're talking about.
He called it an apparel spritz.
Never did
gosh.
that. Never did that.
White women would never.
That's
first
what I
of all.
told him. That's what I told him. So,
How dare you?
with that, anywho, that's the podcast. Thank you for coming on, Caitlyn. You got an Uber getting here in 2 minutes. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Go get your steps in, and we'll talk to you guys
Get
later.
outside.
Get outside.
Get outside.
See you guys.
Waxacan.